Hello, and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We are continuing our Pioneer series. We got Magic Origins this time around. Jake, you excited about Magic Origins?
Yes, I am excited, and we're not going to be talking about Jace Vryn's Prodigy.
No, as always, we are not talking about the heavy hitters. This is our sleeper series. Before we get going, if you wouldn't mind hitting like, hitting subscribe down there, really helps us out.
But only if you're logged in.
Absolutely, that is the caveat. Only if you're logged in. If you're just here to enjoy the video, enjoy the video. Let's go ahead and transition over to the cards, Jake, because we've got our powerhouse here behind us to start. The caveat that I was talking about is that we're not hitting the power cards. We're trying to hit sleeper cards that are under $1, maybe under $5, aiming at cards that might end up being sideboard staples, you know, things like that, that we think you could still get in cheap right now before the prices inevitably go up.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with like $5, because at this point, we don't want to tell you about any cards that are absolute trash and try to be like, just because they're $1, you should check these out.
Sure.
Pioneer is in a constant state of evolving. Every single day, we're seeing card prices go up. And we really do want to talk about Hangarback Walker today.
Yeah.
But the problem is that Hangarback Walker is already spiking. It's
Yep.
getting played in Affinity alongside hardened scales, and it's showing up in other brews.
And
So
it
it's
makes sense.
already holding like an $8 to $10 price point. But it is worth mentioning, like just a few days ago, it was like $3 to $5.
Right, and that would have been the perfect time to get in on it. And you know, we can only go as quickly as our capabilities allow us to get these videos
That's true.
out.
That's
but,
true.
You know, we are trying to dump these as quickly as possible so that we can talk about the cards before they do jump up. Speaking of before they jump up, Displacement Wave, 2 blue and X to return all non-land permanents with converted mana cost X or less to their hands. This seems like a pretty good board wipe if you need one in these colors.
Yeah, and that's kind of the motivation behind this card is like, in Modern there are better spells, but I think Displacement Wave is it's really good in this format. It's low cost, it's versatile, and
Right.
versatile is always great.
I mean, at the very least, right now, there's a huge meta with Nissa and Oko, and so you've got a bunch of creatures and creature tokens and food tokens and all these things running around that could just get shot back to their hands pretty simply.
Yeah, that's true. And when you bounce an Elk, where does it go? It goes into the Aether.
It goes away. Harbinger of Tides is our merfolk pick from Magic Origins. Flash it for 4 and return a tapped creature to their hand. This, for me, falls into the tribal discussion that I've had with you and with other people that have been commenting on the videos. It's such a good time to get in on these tribes before somebody figures out which the best ones are.
Yeah, that's true. And we have a bunch of banners and stuff and ways
Right.
to buff different tribes. We have Metallic Mimic, which is going to come in as a merfolk. So that's the reason this card is on the list. It is a merfolk. Otherwise, I'm a little bit low on it.
Sure.
It's not terrible, but for a bear, for what it does, it's a really good tempo play.
A lot of these tribal cards end up being not as good unless they are in a tribal strategy, but it's the kind of thing, if you want to get in low because you think Merfolk is going to blow up, or Vampires, which is one, or Zombies, another one, which I think both of them have a distinct chance, now's the time to pick them up. Moving on to Erebos' Titan, which is a 5/5 for 4, pretty dope.
Yeah, it's a really cool card. It never took off in the standard that it came out in, but I'm wondering, in Pioneer, could it get there? I think it's got a lot of good text that points it in the right direction. I think it's a nice, powerful spell. I'd be really interested to see if Pioneer could get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, it would be great to see some kind of mono black deck really make a splash. It's been quite a few standards, with the exception of, I think, Zombies around Amon Keplock, that I've seen a mono black deck be competitive, and that's one of my favorite formats. My favorite ways to play. My favorite commander deck is my mono black deck, and so this is the kind of card that definitely speaks to me.
Yeah, it's recursion. It's like any big thing where you can get something out of your graveyard. It's worth taking a look at and seeing if there's a strategy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Speaking of mono black, Languish, here we go. Here's -4/-4 to everything on the board. Here's a board wipe.
Yeah, I like this more than Witch's Vengeance that we just got. This is just pretty much as close as we're going to get to like a black board wipe that hits indestructible, and it just kind of like does like nice -4/-4 across the board. You know, when we're thinking of like actual board wipe, we're thinking of like Crux of Fate, which is going to destroy all dragon creatures or all non-dragon creatures.
Right.
But it's a mana more. So it really is. Do you want the -4/-4? Probably a sideboard card.
Yeah, it's one of those that will really start to shine once the format starts to settle a little bit. If we see that, you know, there are some 4-but or less indestructible things that are running around in a very powerful deck, Languish is the kind of card that's going to go way up.
Yeah, this hoses Adanto. It pretty much kills all of the Elks. So, you know, I really like the card. Yeah. I think it has legs. I'm excited to see what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving to Abbot of Carroll Keep. You found me an aggro card in here, Jake. When it enters the battlefield, you get a little bit of a light up the stage, and it prowesses to grow once you're casting your lightning bolts and your strikes and your shocks.
Dude, and this is another card like Hangarback Walker that just out of nowhere is it's spiking.
Yeah.
I think when I put the list together, it was like $3 to $5, and now this card is going up as well. It's sold out on like in major spots, but it's a card that is absolutely going to be played. That prowess is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another reason. Hit that little notification bell down there so you get notified when these videos go up, so you can get on these cards if you think you're going to like them as quickly as possible, because Jake is right. These cards are already going up as we're making these lists. Chandra's Ignition, this is one that I really liked that we included on here, because it's going to give red access to some kind of board wipe, even though I think it's probably going to end up a little too expensive converted mana cost wise to see much play.
You know, I agree with you. I just, the reason it's here is because there's so much ramp. Mm-hmm. And I think that getting to this on like turn 3 or turn 4, you know, think about comboing it with like a Lupine prototype. You know, it's just like, yeah. You know,
or a good creature like
yeah, that's true. Or a good creature,
like the Gruul hexproof creature that's in standard right now. It
can
come in as a 3/3 or a 4/4 on turn 3, or let's say once you have 3 mana, and so once you have access to 5 mana and that 4/4 is on the battlefield, you know, it's for everything. It's a exsanguinate, not exsanguinate, but the anguish.
Yeah,
Languish.
Yeah, Languish. No, but you think about this card, like, combine it in, like, a red-blue shell with Vantress Gargoyle.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like...
That's not a bad play.
I think that Chandra's Ignition is one of those cards that kind of went overlooked because it came out in a set that pretty much everybody was laser-focused on certain cards. They wanted all of the flip planeswalkers. They wanted, like, a couple other things, but really... Chandra's Ignition is such a powerhouse in specifically the format.
Right.
Duels of the Planeswalkers, which came out on Xbox and PlayStation and consoles, and it's one of those cards where in the right shell, it's just an absolute hose. I mean, and it deals damage to face. So in the right shell, like it's a hell of a card.
Yeah, it can be pretty brutal. Talking about brutal, here is a sideboard card from Hell for control decks. Goblin Piledriver Pro Blue. When it attacks, it gets +2/+0 for each attacking goblin. I remember when this card got announced that it was getting reprinted, people were freaking out.
Yeah, and it didn't really do anything.
Nope.
But it has kind of since then it made its way into Modern in a deck called 8-Whack, and also I was just talking about how in Magic Origins people were focused on Jace's Vryn's Prodigy.
Right.
This was one of the other cards that people were focused on, and since then it's held a pretty low price point. I imagine if Pioneer Goblins takes off, there is no way that Piledriver is going to get left out of that main.
Exactly. It's the same thing. It's the same tribal discussion that we've had on multiple of these videos and even earlier. If Goblins takes off, there's no way this card doesn't go up.
Oh yeah, hardcore 100%. Definitely the foils.
Yeah, it's got to be a sideboard card at the least. Pia and Kieran is next up. Enters the battlefield, brings with it 2 1/1 servos that can, or Thopters rather, that can go towards any of your artifact strategies to tap for mana later on, whatever you're trying to, you know, get funky with. But also, you can pay 3 in shock to sack an artifact. You know, it's just got a little bit of everything for a deck that wants a strategy like this.
Yeah, and it found a home in like Skred in Modern, which is a very, very fringy deck, and it's made its way into a couple other decks, but it's a really cool card. And I think of like a deck where you build this alongside like Saheeli,
Yeah.
where it's like you're cantripping and you're making so many servos, and then all of a sudden you play Pia and Kieran, and then even if they kill it, you've got the value of the Thopters that came with it. Most likely you have another one in hand.
Right.
There's a lot of value here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thing is that bottom ability doesn't make them tap. So as long as you got 3 mana, you're shocking whatever you want to shock.
Yep.
Hallowed Moonlight is next. Instant speed if a creature would enter the battlefield and was snuck on. Exile it instead, and it cantrips. You want to talk about a sideboard card? Holy crap.
Oh yeah, this is definitely there for any kind of reanimator graveyard tech. It is strictly a sideboard card. You wouldn't want to run this in your main.
For sure, but it's backbreaking.
Huge backbreaking hate card. Just absolutely, like, no blood for bones, bring it back, Emrakul. It's just like, nope, sorry. Everything that you just did is done.
Yep.
Put a halt. And I'll draw a card.
And I get to draw a card for it.
Yeah.
Evolutionary Leap. Now, this is an interesting one for me because the card gets put into your hand and you have to sack a creature. So you can do it maybe on their EOT to really take advantage of this and not have like a suboptimal kind of clunky turn. But this could possibly see some play.
100% EOT. It's here because it's an enchantment. Enchantments are sticky.
Right.
One green, one other. There's a lot going on here. It's a sacrifice engine. It's cheap. It's an enabler.
Yeah. Well, I've actually seen a Pioneer list running around that's built around, I forget her name, but the creature that kind of allows you to do the sacking, go get a creature +1 converted mana cost.
It's a Merfolk,
Vannifar?
Yeah, Vannifar. Like that sounds correct.
This is the kind of card that could give that deck maybe a little redundancy, and so you at least can go get your Vannifar again if they reanimate it, or some piece that you need, because you're going to have a toolbox in that deck already. So if you just need to go get a Thrashing Bronodon to kill whatever artifact or enchantment screwing with you, this at least allows you to get that ability on a different kind of stick.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're right about it being an EOT. It's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, it gets clunky because it goes into your hand, but and
it's good for velocity, and velocity is an important thing.
Yeah, right. You just don't. It sucks. It would be better if you had some kind of tokens, because you don't even get to go specifically pick out of your entire deck what you get. You really just got to take whatever comes off the top of the deck. And so if you're making a 1/1, if you've got Dreadhorde Invasion or something like that that's making tokens regularly, and you can turn those tokens into creatures in your hand, that's actually probably how, now that I'm thinking about it, how I would want to build this card.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That brings us back around to Hangarback Walker and the end of our Magic Origins list. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Once again, if you liked the video, if you wouldn't mind hitting like, hitting subscribe. If you want to support us even further, we've got a Patreon. The link is down there in the description below, and we are streaming twice a week over on Twitch, Tuesdays and Thursday nights. I'm tapped out. Jake, you got anything else?
If there's anything that you think we missed, let us know in the comments. And until next time, I'm out, man. I'm tapped out. I'm gonna go find something so that the next time you ask me if I've got anything else, I can tell you I've got something.
Later.